Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome to Construct Your Life. I don't know what to say. Buckle in, saddle up. I hope you got your big boy pants on, because we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Christopher Lochhead in the house. How are you doing, my brother?
Good to see you, Austin. Thanks for having me.
Guys, there's going to definitely be a cuss explicit achievement going on the side of this bad boy. He asked me if he could cuss. I said, hell yeah. So I know a little bit about you. There's a lot of people that might not know. I don't want to spend too much on your bio. He is an amazing podcast host. He is the godfather of marketing category, huge exit from his company. He sits on the top of many tech boards. If you want to just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just get rolling from there.
Well, thanks, Austin. I think my story is not that different than a lot of entrepreneur stories. So I got thrown out of school at 18 for being stupid. I found out later on in life that I'm have dyslexia and dyscalculia and a bunch of these other things that we now lovingly refer to as learning differences. I put them all together and just call it dysfucklia. So I got thrown out of school at 18, and I had a choice. And my choice was I could work in manual labor for the rest of my life, or I could do something different. I could start a company. And so for me, like I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship wasn't a way up, it was a way out. And so I started a company with no experience, no relationships, certainly no money, clearly no education. And me and my buddy Jack started a company, and away we went. And then I ended up doing 3 tours of duty as a public company chief marketing officer in Silicon Valley, and retired after 20 years of doing that stuff at age 38. And then I began sort of a new phase of life as an advisor and an investor, and that then led to being now an author and a podcaster. And that's mostly what I do today.
And I have a theory, and I think, when I heard your first interview in Matty A's group, and it spoke to me about the overriding theme was for once, I felt like I could be myself. I felt like somebody I connected with in business that could be myself. But I think an interesting thing, a theory I worked on when I was running in La Jolla one time, is I meet so many 40 and 50-year-old investors that want to get in the game. And they wait 2 or 3 years to pull a deal off, or they can't even pull a deal off, and then you meet 21-year-olds and they've got 300 units. And I almost think there is some bliss in the stupidity of not knowing.
One of my favorite expressions, Austin, is to be successful at anything in life, we have to be stupid enough to think it's possible. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, and it's interesting. I'm reminded of a quote, Jack White from the White Stripes, the legendary guitar player and songwriter and singer. I remember years ago reading an interview with him. I think it was in Rolling Stone, but I don't know. I'm not that smart and I drink a lot. But one of the things that he said that I thought was absolutely fascinating was that the band, the White Stripes, wasn't sort of as fun for him once he and Meg became, competent and effective at their instruments. Because when you're taught to play guitar, you're taught to play guitar. And when you don't know, you fucking, I don't know, maybe you'll play it with your nose. I don't know what you'll do, right? Mm-hmm. But you understand the point. So there is something to that.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're going through, and I was talking to a gentleman the other day who actually was in the tech, he's a big investor out in Oregon now, but he slept on a couch in Silicon Valley for like 6 years, and he was from like Nebraska, what different worlds, when Silicon Valley was growing up. And I said there was something about the competitive nature of Silicon Valley and the push, right? That I think this day and age in society, with the technology and Netflix and air conditioning and all these things, we run from that push, that competitive fire. When you were coming up and Silicon Valley is not what it is today, and it's still changing every day. Do you look back on those days as like the ass kicking and the competitiveness was like part of what made you, or do you think that's for sure?
No, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And look, it's the same in every avenue in life, right? I'm a huge fight fan, boxing and martial arts. And if you look at how fighters develop, right? Well, we all walk into the dojo with a white belt on day one. Everybody starts at the same place, right? And in something like fighting, it doesn't matter who your mom or dad are, right? So, and in entrepreneurship, is sure, if your mom can give you $100 million to start off with and dad's Bill Gates, then, maybe. But in general, we all start plus or minus with nothing. And you work your way up. And every time you fight at a different level, you have to take your game up or your ass is going to get kicked. And invariably what happens is your ass does get kicked. You go from being, if you work yourself up, you become the number one fighter in your dojo. You're king shit at Turd Island, right? And then, well, maybe you're going to go to the regionals, or you're going to, there's a ladder. You look at baseball, you look at the way football, right? And so the point is, the way we get better in many cases is to have our ass kicked. My first business failed terribly. And it was devastating. And then, and little did I know, it was one of many devastations to come.
But what kept you? I almost worry about this is like, was there another option? And my joke with everybody is like this is the path I've chosen. So ups and downs are slight difference. What am I going to go do? Be a perfume salesman at Abercrombie and Finch? Like, this is the path that I've chosen. And so when you kind of have that attitude, like, because I've lost money, alcoholism, all those things, it's almost like, what is the options, right? I think people act like they have some daddy or mommy to fall back on. Like, when you venture out, entrepreneurship is war. I mean, it is war. It's business.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully nobody's dying in your business, but we just recently had former Navy SEAL Brent Gleason on my podcast. And by the way, he's got a brand new book out called Embrace the Suck.
Yes,
it's great. And it's exactly what you think a book called Embrace the Suck, written by a former Navy SEAL. It's exactly the book that you would think it is, right? He doesn't disappoint. He gives you an awesome, motivational, insightful Navy SEAL shit book. And he's a great guy, right? But anyway, long story longer. Interestingly enough, here I am talking to this guy, right? And there are not bigger badasses in the world than this guy. He's a U.S. Navy SEAL on SEAL Team 5, multiple tours of duty. Like, this is an elite warrior, frogman warrior, right? Like, anyway, you get my point. And he looks like a freaking, he looks like a superhero. He looks like he could bench press your car. Anyway, and now he's an entrepreneur. Well, guess what? This is what he says. He says entrepreneurship is as scary and in some ways more scary. Yes, there's the not dying part, which is clearly the benefit. But he was talking about in his business when the pandemic hit, I forget the exact number, but it might have been 80% of their revenue went away because, they do consulting and workshops and he gives speeches and, they're like a leadership, how to kick ass and take names company, right? Which is the exact company you want that guy to start.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a scary thing when that happens. And it turns out, even for a Navy SEAL, that entrepreneur shit's pretty scary. That's my point.
No, I love it. And so, I would love to hear your views on the world of marketing as it sits today, because you know, it's an interesting, I got the podcast, the Instagram, and you're trying to follow all these. There's a new app out every second. But if there's an investor or an entrepreneur out there, what are your core things that they need to be focused on in a technology world that is changing at every moment? I was just on a call where they're talking about drone areas for delivery in 15 minutes. So, like it's something new every week.
Yeah. Great question. So it's been said that your intelligence is marked by your ability to hold two potentially opposite thoughts in your head at the same time and still function, right? I wish I could remember who said that, but somebody way smarter than me said it. So on one hand, we have to be very aware. We have to be constantly learning about technology, about new categories, about new innovation that's coming. And I think it's important for us to understand new categories of innovation, create new categories of innovation, or said in a different way, today's solutions are tomorrow's problems. And so we live at a time of massive accelerated innovation and category creation. And as that happens, it accelerates the innovation and category creation. So that's the world that we live in. And I think it behooves us to do, I think, the logical thing, which is say, that's fucking awesome. How lucky are we? You and I grew up in a world that was not digital native. People being born today are digital natives. Their digital life, I'm going to say something outrageous, is more important than their physical life. And here's my evidence. If you believe the data, it's sponsored by the industry, so maybe it's a little suspect, but even if it's remotely close, approximately 50% of the marriages in the United States of America originate on a dating app. So let's just think about this for a second. If that's right, even if it's 30%, it's astonishing. What it's saying is your digital game is now more important than your in-person game. Your ability to text is what drives whether or not you get laid. Wrap your head around that. When I was a kid, you had to learn to play guitar. No, but seriously.
Dude, I can't tell you how many. So my old company, we had 12 properties under management and 2 bank accounts together, and we never met in person.
Right. Exactly. The 2 guys I'm collaborating with on my new book, I didn't meet them in person until we decided to write a book together. And I consider them brothers before we met in person. I didn't know how tall they were.
Hey, more importantly, because I know you'll be the only one to actually say this for real. How awkward is it to meet him the first time in person after you've been talking? Dude, it's almost like you don't even know how to talk to him in real life.
There's that moment, right? And I'm an extrovert, so that moment isn't super long for me. I'm sure for some introverts anyway, it would be longer. But even still, you're absolutely right, Austin. There's that moment, and sometimes it's just fleeting, but it's just weird. It just is weird.
Dude,
and it's not weird for any particular reason or because they look some way. That it's not that it just, when you have a primarily digital relationship with somebody, or in this case, an exclusively digital relationship with somebody, the second it becomes physical, it's weird.
One guy was 6'5", and I was like, damn, you're a big man. It's I didn't know that you were that big.
Dude, you're fucking huge.
And so, a lot of the guys that I coach, a lot of the people that listen, some of the people that listen to this podcast are 20, 21 real estate investors are starting a business. What I try to tell everybody, and tell me if I'm wrong or right, because I feel like half the time as a coach, I'm a talent manager. Also, do on this platform, be paying attention to this app. Don't you believe that the Instagram bio, the Facebook bio is a new business card?
Yes. Yes, I do. And actually said more specifically, what happens after somebody Googles your ass matters. I don't want to forget one thing, because I probably will. You don't have to be fucking everywhere. So here's the flip side of what I said about being aware and staying on the leading edge and educating yourself and all that good shit. Don't make yourself insane. You don't have to be everywhere. You know how many fucking platforms there are? I mean, they're the big ones we all know about, but hey, don't forget there's Medium. Yeah. And don't forget there's Quora, right? And now there's this new fucking thing, Clubhouse.
Oh yeah, it's the rage.
It's the rage, man. All the cool kids are on Clubhouse. And if you're a podcaster, you're on Podbooker. And if you're a gardener, you're on Gardener fucking something. And if you're a nose picker, you're on Nose Picker. I mean, there's fucking tons of platforms, right? And so we can all make ourselves crazy. And even if you just said, I'm going to just be on the big ones. Okay, well, what might that mean? Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn. Did I miss one?
Dude,
that's at least 4.
Yeah, it's
Twitter, duh. Twitter.
TikTok,
so TikTok, Pinterest, that's 7. And then there's industry specific ones, and then there's Medium, and then there's you get to 10 fast. Well, here's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Unless you're an insane extrovert, being on 10 platforms is insane. Now, if you want to hire a team of people to put you on 10 platforms, really? That's what you're going to do? That's where you're going to deploy your resources? Look, here's the aha with all this bullshit. From a pure marketing perspective, there's other reasons to do some of these things. Of course, there's human reasons, real human reasons to be in these places. But from a pure marketing perspective, what you're trying to do is get free distribution. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to put something out that gets delivered to an audience you think matters to you, and hopefully you matter to, for free. You're trying to get Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever to do that marketing for free. If you want, and that's what you're trying to do with SEO, as opposed to paying for an ad, right? So that's what you're doing from a purely marketing point of view. So you say, well, how much time, money, because it does cost money, and energy do you want to put into trying to get free distribution? That's the question you should ask. And the answer is going to be different for some brands, for some individuals. The answer can be very, very different. I don't have a judgment necessarily about the answer. But what I am saying is don't be confused about what the fuck you're doing. And you can decide, you know what? I don't give a shit about being on Pinterest. For me personally, I don't give a fuck about Instagram. I like it as a user. I enjoy my Instagram. It's fun, but I'm not trying to get anything done in business on Instagram.
What's interesting is I think there's 2 things that are very important that I do that other people don't. I hate to share my secret, but whatever. But more importantly, I don't think people pay attention to the user of said platform. Like each user of said platform has a different point of view of the world. So when you understand, like LinkedIn is a business-oriented article kind of business, and Instagram is pictures and little funner, and TikTok's this, nobody's paying attention to the type of user. But here's the bigger thing. I don't consume social media. I read the comments and I read what people are saying, but I also read who people are promoting and sharing their videos and what message they have, because that's somebody I need to know. So I'm very tactical about my social media.
Yeah, which is cool. I'm trying to get all of that. I'm interested in whose ideas people are promoting and what stories are being surfaced. And I also look, my favorite platform is LinkedIn. It's where my people are. It's where the conversations that matter to me live, and that I want to participate in. And look, I'll tell the truth for sure. I also like it when somebody I know, I see that, they just got promoted or they just started at a new company. I love that shit. Mm-hmm. And I don't always have time, but if I have time, or if it's somebody I know well, but even if it's somebody I don't know that well, if they just got promoted or a new job or something, if I have a sec, I'll just drop them a little, at least I'll like it for fuck's sakes. And if I have a little bit of a sec, I'll drop them a note and say, hey, congratulations. I hope this is a big winner for you. I don't know, that little shit. Anyway, but I'm not trying to get anything done on Instagram. I'm not trying to get anything done on Twitter. I'm not. Twitter's not, I'm okay on Twitter, but I'm not trying because I don't get Twitter. Reddit. Here's a great one. I don't know what the fuck's going on Reddit. I don't know. I don't know. That's a planet.
I've never tweeted a day in my life because I don't get it at all. So I just don't even mess with it. It's not even worth it. And I have a client that I work with in Airbnb who's an SEO guy, and he thinks websites are bullshit. So, everybody has their own view of what they need to do because their business operates out of YouTube, right? And so, I look at, these whole things, and I think you can get caught up in the mess. But I was interesting. We had a little talk in your group with Matty A about, is the new reputation your results in business? And I think that's what I'm learning to do. You're doing the opposite. But what I'm learning to do is in my 30s and in my early 40s is talk a little less and do a little more and let my actions speak for myself. Because I know in my 20s, it was the other way around, where my mouth was coming around the corner before my foot was.
Yeah. A lot of us have a similar trajectory, particularly those of us who own testicles. But I digress. What was the question?
Well, no, I was just saying, with the new age of I raise a bunch of money, but I have no sales. I think, I had a mentor tell me this in the car, and it was one of those moments where it feels like somebody stuck a knife in your neck. It was so to the core of my heart, because it'd be awesome. He goes, if you did something or launched a company or did something and we didn't know about it, and then 2 months later, we were like, fuck, look at Austin. He just crushed it. And that's when I realized I was doing a little too much talking and not a lot of moving. And I think you got to let your results speak for yourself.
Yes. Amen. Hallelujah. And I think that you, like a lot of younger entrepreneurs, got caught by the hi buddy. Is this podcast
for all you radio listeners? There's a cat on his laptop. Chris, I did have one of my friends breastfeed her baby, so this is nothing on the podcast, so we're good. So,
well, I will not be breastfeeding this cat for a whole myriad of reasons, because that would just be weird. But I think you might have fallen victim, Austin, to something subtly without maybe not even knowing it. There is an entire category, I would even call it a fucking industry today, of what I call hustle porn stars. And it's as a result of the Kardashianization of our world. And so we've got all these idiots today telling us to build a personal brand and telling us to put out 5,000 pieces of content a day and telling us to promote ourselves nonstop. And what you should really do is video every fucking thing you do and just live stream that shit. And then, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's an entire generation of entrepreneurs who want to be famous to be famous. Being famous is the outcome. See, it used to be getting famous was an outcome, was a result of another outcome. Oh, you did this incredible thing in science. They gave you a Nobel Prize and you wrote a book And now you're well known. That's because you did this amazing thing that got you this prize. Today, people want the prize. And more, actually, they don't even, that would be great, is worse. They want the recognition for getting the prize. So they don't want to do the work to get the prize or the fucking prize. They want the likes. And so we have conflated what the real source of innovation is, what the real source of, frankly, human satisfaction is, which is the accomplishing of things that matter. And if you are going to be known, and all of us want to be known a little bit, at least as far as to be respected in our chosen area, then we get recognized for our contribution for producing results. That's what you want. You don't want to be recognized for being an asshole taking selfies on the fucking internet.
Dude, I got to hear your opinion of this. Did you hear that they were renting out a stage in LA of like a fake jet to take photos, that they were in a private jet for like TikTok and Instagram? Did you hear this shit?
No, I didn't, but I'm not surprised. You know, they have these, I mean, you're in the real estate business. They have these rental fucking influencer mansions in LA where they get all these stupid 20-year-old douchebags and they put them in a house and they set them all up and they make it look like they live in the house. All this bullshit. It's a giant charade.
You know what we've lost in society? There used to be some sort of wonder in, like, I would imagine when you were coming up and like the internet wasn't, all these things, like there was whispers about you when people had dinner, right? There's no more, nobody holds anything back. Like, there's no like that guy, like, my favorite thing in the world, I had somebody message me the other day, like, dude, what did you do to lose 65 pounds? Like, what program gave you the results? I'm like, fucking work. Like, I don't understand what the fuck you want. They're looking for this magic pill or something. I don't know. It drives me crazy.
Here's what I did, dude. I cut back my calorie intake. I ate way better food. I was fucking disciplined about it. I drank water and I worked out, and I did it for a long fucking time.
Exactly.
There is, I love the weight loss industry, right? And look, I understand people need support and all that. So this is going to sound overly shitty. I don't mean it that way. But the reality is you don't need any more fucking information. I just gave it to you, right? And by the way, we all know that. I didn't tell you anything you don't already know. And this is the fucking interesting thing. We live in a time where people are hungry for the new thing. Our problem in general is not a lack of information. Our problem in general is a lack of action and results. Most people in the United States of America do not need to read one more fucking article, see one more fucking video, take one more fucking class on how to lose weight and get in shape. They don't. We know. It's fucking right there. Google it once, read it. There it is. I just gave it to you. Right. And a lot of things in life are like that. So there's this like, it's like when I started writing and podcasting, I was like, okay, well, clearly we're at a point now where you just hire a 17 to 28-year-old super duty dude technology person, and she just fucking growth hacks something up, and boom, you got a hit podcast, right? So like, okay, go buy a growth hacker. This is where I was 4 years ago, right? Let's go to the growth hacker store. There's 1 million books about this shit. They all look really cool in their videos and all that. Let's just go hire one, give them whatever it is, and boom. Guess what happens when you do that? Fucking nothing. Because here's why. There's no trick. You want to become legendary at it? Okay. Produce a legendary product. Have a legendary business that supports that product and a great business model that aligns your interests with the interests of customers. And then design a category, become known for a niche that you can own, distinguish yourself radically with some category design. That's what it takes. And oh, by the way, 5 years of that.
Dude, somebody asked me on a podcast for the first time. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I used to, for briefly, when my parents kicked me out, I went from a 3,500 square foot house on a golf course next to NBA players to living in a 50 square foot closet with a single mattress and a fan, working construction 60 hours a week. And he asked me, but here's what you don't know. Dude, I got to tell you this story. I've never fucking shared this story a day in my life. And if there's anybody that's going to understand the gravity of this moment, you will get it. So we are drinking heavily and the party central at the house. And there's music on the TV. I'm right near the living room. I'm in a 50 square foot single bed, a bag, and a fan. Well, the door used to get locked. So if I had to pee, I couldn't get out. Sometimes the door would get jammed. They have Audio Slave on max, and it must have played, Chris, 72 times that I couldn't get out of the fucking door. And to this day, I hear that song and I want to fucking punch something.
Which song is it? Show Me How to Live, or which one was
like
it?
The first one they had, like the hit, like
yeah.
I don't know because it gives me chills just thinking about it.
I can hear the guitar. I can hear the guitar lick in my head.
He asked me. He said, "What got you out of that closet?" And I said, "Look, regardless of my dad's a doctor, my family and my parents, my dad grew up with nothing. So did my mom. They taught me one thing. And it's the one skill that you can get out of any scenario in. Fucking work. Go to work. Your marriage is shitty. Communicate better. Go to work. Your job's shitty. Work on the side. Get a better one. Like, create your life. Like, stop. I wrote something the other day. Like, eat right. Drink water. Stop being a fucking asshole. Give money to charity. Live below your means. There you go. I just gave you the secret weapon to life.
There it is. There's every Tony Robbins class you ever need to take right there from Austin Linney. I'm sure you'll be launching your new seminar, workshop.
Dude, no, I got a better idea. You ready? I've never shared this one either, but if there's ever somebody to pitch my $1 billion idea with, it's fucking Christopher Lochhead, the king of marketing. So I want to create a seminar arena, okay? And I only target gentlemen that have been married more than 3 times. I walk up, I bang my hand on the table, and I say, obviously, what you're doing is not fucking working. And then I just walk out.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me your 20 grand. Yeah.
And that's a $20,000 program, because that's really what's going on. Actually, in all seriousness, one of my favorite expressions, Austin, for years and years and years, to make that happen. See, the aha is we're all experts about what's wrong with other people.
Yes.
Right? If I say to you, hey, Austin, come on, tell me the truth, right? You got a list, right? However, we are less clear about said list for ourselves. So to turn the mirror on ourselves, there's this expression I've loved for decades. And the expression goes like this. Well, if we were smart and we were us, what would we do? Because we're definitely us.
Yes.
Right? As a way to sort of force that outsider look at oneself, right? If we were smart and we were us and we were in this, what would a smart person do here? If I was legendary, what would I do now? What would the most legendary version of me do now?
Dude, we have become a society of our views of other people. We hold them to the highest degree. Don't do this, don't do that. I'm going to nitpick them. But when it comes to personal standards and discipline, it has eroded in society of our own values of who we are. It's so evident.
Yeah, and look, I think in general, the discipline porn that has emerged is good. I think Jocko Willink books and videos are fantastic. And I think if you're at a place in your life where you need somebody to tell you to fucking get on with it, he's a legendary guy to do that. And, there are others. Have you heard, by the way, he's got one, and I'm not going to
scares the shit out of me, dude. Like,
well, gee, I wonder why. He's got one where it sort of, and I might be off a little. I'm not a big consumer of stuff. I do like him, but I'm not like a big fan or whatever. But he's got this one video where he says, car broke down. Good. Wife left you. Good. Broke your leg. Good. Ran out of money. Good. And he just keeps going and going. Hair fell out. Good. Dick fell off. Good. Right. And he just keeps going and going and going. It's just, there's something incredibly motivating about good. Good. All right. No, I don't give a shit how often my dick falls off. I'm going to fucking, back to embrace the suck.
Well, here's what I learned. I learned my lesson right when I got into personal development. My cousin calls me and he's like, man, I love where you're at. You're losing weight. You're not drinking. He's like, give me some of the motivation. And dude, instead of like easing him in with a soft cuddle, I hand him a David Goggins video and he's like, bro, I'm good. I think that level of accountability, you need to know when to hit it, right? But something I will extract from your message and your books, and regardless of where you fall on the discipline or personal development scale, Jocko Willink or Tony Robbins, something I love about you and something you preach is just be yourself and like understand if you need to wake up at 10 o'clock at night or in the morning and you don't do the miracle morning and you want to work at night because you like nighttime, like just be you. And so many times we're trying to be somebody else that our goals that we're writing down are for somebody else. Who cares? Like, keep them to yourself,
Yeah, I think that's right. A lot of what we see today is sort of telling us to be something we're not. And here's the crazy fucked up thing. How much control do you have over what I think of you?
Nothing.
Fucking zero. And all of us, myself included, it's the human condition. We get railroaded into thinking that, well, if we behave a certain way, then maybe Austin will, and so we modify and we this and we that. And look, there's some amount of that is natural human connection, right? We all change the way we speak slightly, given who we're talking to. Given maybe their age, given their language that they speak, or, guys talk to guys a little bit differently than they do to gals. And, we all do that. And I think there's a natural, that's just humans trying to connect and find, the receiver and the transmitter trying to meet. So I think there's a lot of that's healthy. But the part that's not healthy is when we try to be something and contort ourselves. Right. That's where we fuck ourselves up. And to your point, on simple things and on big things, if you're not a morning person, listen, Hal Elrod wrote one of the greatest books of all time, and we love him for it. And he's made a difference to millions. But if the truth is you like to get up at 11 o'clock because you stayed up till whatever, then fucking A, maybe that's not your book. It's okay. I'm an early morning person. And I'm most creative early in the morning. So, for example, I don't schedule a meeting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon where I have to be creative and super alert. It's just not going to work. It's going to be torture for me. I'm not going to be valuable in the meeting. So I don't do that. Right? These are all things where self-awareness makes a difference. And there's an interesting line we try to walk where we want to be brutally aware of who we are, but at the same time, listen, if what there is for us to do is change and evolve, then maybe we should change our ass a little too. We can all grow, right?
Amen. No, I love that because I do the same thing. I don't schedule anything after 4 o'clock because I can talk, but I'm not creative at that point. So it's not doing anything. I think in society we have decision fatigue. I think, you go to fucking Starbucks and they got 6 milks. It's like, can you just make the damn coffee? Like, I don't even know what these milks are anymore. There's so many different milks. And so if you're more adapt to make these decisions in the morning, then know that about yourself and position yourself to do those things. And I fill up my mornings heavy. But something I want to share, because I heard it on Maddie's call, and I thought it was the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You had a CEO who had been like a CEO in the big time for like 25 years. And he like, hey man, can you help me? I'm looking for a new job. And he sent over your resume to you, and he texts you like 3 days later, and you're like, did you look at it? And you're like, fuck no, I didn't look at it. If you need a resume at this point, you're really not. I've told that story like 30 times.
And what is it, Austin, about that story that you like so much?
Because at some point, a piece of paper, right? If you haven't done enough to make a wave or make an impact around the people around you to know who you are, then at some point, some shitty, like, perfect example, I think we do a lot of shit ass backwards. Like in corporate world, I think corporate companies are, overinflated with, people that watch Netflix all day, because we view like that results in, and I'm going off on a tangent, but ultimately what you're saying in that moment with that guy is like, yeah, I could fucking tell you that your I's not dotted, but like the paper that you lit, that this is not going to make a man. Either your reputation of who you are as a person and the people that you've shooken hands with and been part of know who you are, or they don't really.
Yeah. And I think there's a big learning in this. Recently did an episode of my marketing podcast on this, which is, and it might be slightly different in different industries, but I think plus or minus, it'll be the same. By the time you're probably 45, certainly 55, but no older than that. And in some industries, it's earlier. In the tech industry, it would be earlier than that. In the tech industry, it would be between 35 and 45. And look, I don't have data to support this, so this is opinion, but stay with me. By roughly those zones, age zones, you want to become known as somebody who can be counted on to produce legendary results in your field. So you want to be known for a field or a discipline or a niche, if you will, that you are acknowledged as having a high level of mastery in. Because here's the aha. When you are a 55-year-old sensei, you are deeply respected, admired, sought after, and compensated because you're Yoda now. If you're a 55-year-old nobody, you're in trouble. And so as we build our careers, one of the things that we're doing is we're training ourselves to produce legendary results. We're training ourselves to create massive value for others, because the people who make the most money are the ones who create the most value for others, who are the hardest to replace. So the people who make the most money are the ones who create the most value for others and are very hard to replace. And the harder you are to replace and the more value you create, the more you're worth. So as you build your career, you want to be a person who does that. You want to be a person who creates a massive amount of value for others, and is hard to replace because you've achieved a level of mastery at something. On a personal level, that's what you want, because I think you want the person who brushes your teeth every day to like the person in the mirror and to respect the person in the mirror and to be proud of the person in the mirror. And I think from a career point of view and an economic point of view, this is what we're building towards. And if you get there by, again, depending on the industry, but plus or minus 45 to 55, the next third, if you will, of your career is wonderful. And if you don't, the next 30-year career is going to fucking suck. And so I think that's what we're building towards.
No, and I always, and I want to respect your time. It's one, I'm sure you have another appointment, but I bought a house in San Antonio, and the girl that lived next door, her father would come up from South America. I hope she doesn't listen to this, but I don't think she does. So, and he was an older gentleman, and he'd worked for a company for a long time, and I guess the retirement wasn't great, and he was kind of down on his luck. And it was like this shaking experience for me that told me, like, don't you be that guy. Like, don't you be that 75-year-old dude that's like can't afford a laptop, like is like hurting. You can tell, like, and so it's always been the moment for me when I don't want to do something, I kind of picture that in my head, but something I champion to all the 20-year-olds because I've met them. I met 1,000,000 50-year-olds. I probably meet 3 a week that would die if they would have found passive income or investments in their 20s because they have to take time away from spending time with their kids. So the thing I tell every 20-year-old is you can have fun. I'm all about having fun. I'm the fun guy. But every moment that you're not creating a second source of income or passive income from your job, you're taking away time from your future kid. And so I'm meeting these kids now, call it YouTube, call it whatever you want, that at 21, I'm thinking to myself, like, I got a kid who just made $400K on a wholesale. He's got 200 units at like 23. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I couldn't even put on a pair of jeans at 23. Like, it's amazing what can be accomplished if you're surrounded by the right people. You got your head on straight and you're focused, and I'm all about having some fun, but getting after it, it can happen quick.
Yes. Another way I like to think about this, Austin, is what do you want future you to thank present you for? And I have this experience now. And this is, something that I think is very powerful, particularly for younger folks. Let's say your career really starts at plus or minus 25. So when you're 25, 50 is a century, is like a galaxy away. When the reality is from 25 to 50 feels like about 6 or 7 years. That's when you look back, right? So my point is you're going to get there way faster than you think. And what I know is 25-year-old me worked my ass off. As a matter of fact, I am mostly assless to this day. And 52-year-old me is really stoked about what a great job 25-year-old me did, and 28-year-old me did, and 32-year-old me did, because that bastard set this fucking guy up.
Drinking whiskey, guitars, hanging out. I will tell you right now, you've done a lot of great interviews, and maybe I'm a Narcos freak, but that interview with those narco guys was the shit. Like, I loved it. To get behind the scenes, like, oh man, that had to have been something special in your heart.
Well, it was hugely special because, obviously those are the guys, the real guys. And I had both of them, and I think it was their publisher flew them out here to California. So they're like, yeah, we could do it over the internet. And this was obviously pre-COVID. And actually it was just pre-COVID. And they came to California. And we hung out and we had dinner the night before, and I got to take them around Santa Cruz and like hang out and talk to them about their lives and their careers and what they're doing now, and jam a little bit on their business. And so like I got all this time with them. And then when we sat down to have the conversation, okay, boys, what really happened? The real Narcos story. Let's go. And this is a podcast. and spare no detail. If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it, right? Who gives a shit about time constraints? It's a podcast. And we ended up doing a 2-part series on it. And the guys are incredible storytellers, and they're incredibly genuine, and they're true American heroes. And yeah, it was a thrill of a lifetime. And, thank you, Jesus, for my podcast.
So you got to go. I'll get you out of here. I'm sure you have a meeting. But I think that's one of the arts that is lost in this day and age of digital, is that storytelling ability to create the wonder and kind of the art of it. And I love that kind of, I don't know, man. If you've listened to Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights, I'm like, this dude, who cares what's in the book? This dude is a goddamn fucking storyteller. And I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's a story about his brother pissing over a 6-foot country boy's head. That's all I need to tell.
I'll go looking for that one.
So if they want to find out the podcast, how do they do that, my man?
Everything hangs off of Lochhead.com.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I can't thank you enough. Truly an honor. I really love what you do. I love what you're about. More importantly, I don't even care what you do, to be honest with you. I feel like, and I'll leave you with this. So if this brightens your day, I feel like there's no need for Lochhead to stand up for what's right or what's the little guy, because there's nothing you're going to gain from it, because you already have what you need, but you do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. And that's why I fucking respect you.
Thank you, brother. That's really kind of you to say. I'm somebody who's had a lot of help in my life, and I continue to have a lot of help in my life. And I think if you're lucky enough to make it to the top of a mountain, throw down a fucking rope.
Amen. That's what I do every day. You're lucky enough to get out of the hells of the fire I were in. I got ropes, ladders, harpoons. I'm getting them all. So thank you so much, man. If you like this episode, make sure you send it out to your friends. If you didn't like it, kiss my ass. That's how I like that one, because this was amazing. So I appreciate it, my man.
Thanks, Austin. That might have been the greatest podcast rap I ever heard.
It just felt right. I was going to hold it back, but it felt right.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.